Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I'll start by reading two quotes from TKG's diary. Do you all know what that is, TKG's diary? Yeah, I'll translate what I said. Okay. So here's the first one, spoken on August the 9th, 1977. Quote from Srila Prabhupada. Book distribution and farms. These are our solid programs. They can change the whole world. The whole foundation of animal civilization can be destroyed. If I have hope for still living, I wanted to organize the farms, make it perfect. Simple living and high thinking. Then the next day, August the 10th, Bhakti Charu replied, Srila Prabhupada, if you stay 3 years more, so much can be done. Srila Prabhupada answered, I have only done 50% of what I want to do. The farms have to be done. If they are established, Varnashram will be established. In the Veda-based program, of which covers all of Srila Prabhupada's works, there are almost 3,000 hits for the word Varnashram. Definitely, we can't say that this was something that Srila Prabhupada didn't take very seriously. He says, book distribution and farms, these are our solid programs. So there's city preaching, headed by book distribution, many other programs also. And farms for Varnashram. So just as all leaders of ISKCON should be enthusiastic about promoting book distribution, they should all be into promoting Varnashram Dharma. And just as all devotees who become associated with Srila Prabhupada's ISKCON should know about the importance that he gave to book distribution, similarly they should know about the importance he gave to Varnashram Dharma. Book distribution, of course, directly gives people spiritual knowledge, whereas Varnashram Dharma is a social arrangement. It's not directly spiritual, but it is given by Krishna. Chato Varnyam Maya Shrishtam, Krishna says, I am the one who has given this division of 4 occupational divisions. And it is particularly that social system which can be dovetailed into Krishna consciousness, and by following which one can perfect his life in Krishna consciousness. After briefly describing the roles of the 4 Varnas in chapter 18 of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Swakarmana tamabhyacha siddhing vindati manavaha, that everyone by following their prescribed work as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, and worshipping Krishna in this way, they can achieve all perfection. So, we can all feel happy coming here. It's a relief to get out of the hellish cities, even though Brno isn't one of the most hellish. There's no heavy industry, I think. Is there?
Maybe there are some.
Some light industry, is there? Small factories.
Something is there, but it's not the main factory.
Yeah, but it's hellish. All the 4 regulated principles is the normal, breaking of them is the normal way of life, as that is modern animal civilization, as Srila Prabhupada calls it. Of course, devotees in one sense, they see it as a good place to be. Just like the Pandavas, they saw the battlefield of Kurukshetra to be a good place to be. although Arjuna wobbled a bit in his determination. But they saw this is where we have to serve Krishna. This is our challenge. But the village life is Krishna's own preferred life. And we also feel happy to have some fresh air, the peaceful ambience of the countryside. But coming here makes us happy in another way apart from the normal happiness of being in the country. We're happy in another way also, because this particular project is meant for fulfilling Srila Prabhupada's desire. So we have the happiness of knowing that Srila Prabhupada is pleased. Now, unfortunately, many of our devotees who very well know Srila Prabhupada's instructions are nevertheless unenthusiastic about Varnashram. They might say, well, I'm not into that. Let someone else do it. You know, everyone has their propensity. My propensity is to be rock star or something like that, or cook, or book distributor. No one has a propensity to be a book distributor either. Whatever, a rock star or a cook or a pujari. But who wants to struggle to establish Varnashram Dharma? Not many devotees raised in the city are naturally inclined to. We may like to visit the country, but to live and work here seems unpalatable. But just as with book distribution, very few devotees have a natural propensity to do that. But many nevertheless do it, and they find the blessings of Srila Prabhupada in doing so, and they become inspired to do it more and more. So it may be that devotees from the cities, they're not inclined to live in the country. But by doing so in Srila Prabhupada's order, they get Srila Prabhupada's blessings. And that makes us happy. The comforts of city life don't make us happy. Even devotees who recognize that, they think that, okay, that's true, but at least it's more comfortable than in the village. So anyway, if we try to add up, there's pros and cons, if we try to assess on the material platform, there are pros and cons of living in the city and living in the village. But overall, the farm projects are meant to, and actually can, create a situation which is better for our cultivating Krishna consciousness, especially in the Grihastha ashram. And as the goal of life is to be Krishna conscious after all, and not simply to be comfortable, then those who care about the spiritual advancement, or those who prioritize that, and the spiritual advancement of themselves and their families, they therefore can understand the importance of these farm projects. Otherwise it might just seem to be a diversion. Why bother with all this? We can go on with our temple and get enough people to come and donate enough to keep things running on. So why bother all this struggle in the farms? We may say, well, it's impractical. You must have heard all these objections. It's costly. Well, that's one major reason why ISKCON should get into it. What's going on now is that new projects that I'm aware of are mostly being started by private individual grihastas, most of whom don't have much funds at their command. So if ISKCON as an institution was to get behind that, then the collection and disbursement of funds that would be for establishing these farms, that would be much easier if it was a group of people doing it rather than just individuals. And actually Srila Prabhupada envisaged that each city temple would have a farm connected to it, and the farm would supply all the ingredients for the temple cooking and especially for restaurants. So there'd be a symbiotic relationship between the city temples, restaurants and farms. That nowadays people are into organic food, and it would be a big hit if we'd actually done this. Unfortunately, many devotees think it's just easier to forget the whole thing. They say it's not necessary. Well, it's true, it's not necessary to be Krishna conscious to have farms. But it is favorable, to create a favorable situation. For that matter, it's not necessary to brush your teeth to be Krishna conscious, or to take a bath daily, or even at all. You can be fully Krishna conscious without all these things. But these things are helpful for bodily hygiene, overall bodily health. So the farms are supposed to create a situation in which devotees can live together peacefully and chant Hare Krishna together. Without chanting Hare Krishna together, well, there's still some benefit of being away from the gross cities. But really the coming together for hearing and chanting has to be the life of the farms. Some of our devotees, they say, well, Varnashram, yeah, good, but we'll do it later. We're not ready for it yet. Yeah, but you could go on saying that for the next 10,000 years. When are we going to be ready? The land is there. The devotees are there. So it's just a matter of desiring to implement it. Some devotees say, well, we're above Varnashram. We're devotees, we're transcendental. We don't need all of this. In fact, those arguments were given to Srila Prabhupada by some of his disciples. In one famous morning walk, when Srila Prabhupada was stressing very much on the need to establish Varnashram colleges.
University.
And why did they argue like that? Because they'd heard the very same from Srila Prabhupada himself. A devotee, a Vaishnav is above the situation of Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra. But on this occasion, when a devotee said, but Srila Prabhupada, devotees are transcendental to Varnashram. And Srila Prabhupada said, then why are they falling down? If they're so transcendental, why are they falling down? So the Varnashram system, it also helps people to remain on the human platform, to regulate our lives in such a way that we don't fall down. In one place, in one lecture, I believe it was, Srila Prabhupada said that the main point of Varnashram is to help us to overcome sexual attraction, because that is the main binding force in this material world. So establishing these communities is preaching in many ways, also to demonstrate the principle of how the sexual revolution of the 1960s, we reject that. I don't know if you're aware of that. That was in the Western world. That means, where they had the idea of free sex and just free love. So it's a great mission, and although this is a great opportunity or to preach to demonstrate a better way of life, and that is preaching. We first of all have to preach to our devotees and demonstrate to them that it can be done. Because some of them think, it can't be done. Or they say, well, we don't know what Varnashram is. You show us. And they say, with the confidence that we can't. Before we started our communities in India, so many told us, no, you can't do it. No one will join. But we found that many devotees want to join. Once they've seen that it can be done, then many devotees want to join. And one major reason for that is for their kids, so their kids are not subjected to the association of karmis. Another reason is that actually the devotees are clearly very happy on the farms, because they have plenty of Krishna consciousness. They have morning, midday, evening satsangas, getting together to hear and chant about Krishna. They work very hard in between, and then they rest early, rise early. And naturally this regulated life with plenty of hearing and chanting about Krishna, in the association of devotees, in a cooperative spirit, makes you very happy. So preaching is needed to our devotees, that we should do this, and it has to be shown that it can be done. So this project is just beginning. And it will require a lot of work to make it successful. Not just working in the fields, but working on understanding how to build it up and deal with others and so many things. In India, our projects there, a lot of research, discussion on all kinds of aspects of the establishing this community. One major factor is, I mentioned, let's go back. So Srila Prabhupada always said about simple living and high thinking. I just mentioned about the high thinking, coming together regularly, daily, 3 times a day for hearing and chanting. Can be 2 times on some farms, twice a day, and others 3 times a day. So high thinking is required, and so is simple living. Not endeavoring for things that we don't need. That's over endeavoring for mundane things is one of the 6 factors that can destroy our progressive advancement in Krishna consciousness. Don't aspire for anything more than we need. Eventually, that might mean no cars, no electricity, and that might think, that's too much. But the more unnecessary things we have, the more we have to work to produce, to finance all of this. Another consideration is that the more simply we live, the more we see Krishna in everything. Vairagya and Vidya, renunciation and knowledge, they go together. If we live very simply, then we can see Krishna in everything and everywhere. I suspect that many children, especially younger children, who are raised in cities, think that food comes from shops packaged in plastic packages. They have no idea it comes. There are such things as fields in which the food is grown. The more we deal in money and purchasing, buying things, the more we become implicated in materialistic consciousness. There's a well-known verse from Bhagavad Gita, Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya parita chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhya samadho navidhyate. For one who is attached to worldly enjoyment and material opulence, the fixed intelligence by which one can attain to spiritual realization, that does not take place. Sometimes we hear devotees say, well, I don't feel I'm advancing. This may be one factor, major factor, because we remain attached to material things. We may say, well, in living here, where's the material opulence? But as much as we're attached to anything that we don't need, that attachment blocks our advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we might think that this verse applies to non-devotees, but it can also apply to us. Now this might sound shocking and dangerous. Yeah. As Srila Prabhupada noted, the non-devotees think that we're advocating a primitive way of life. Just like that young man this morning, he objected about this primitive, he used that word. Their idea of advanced civilization is much industrialization, everything mechanized, and there's definitely nothing spiritual. That's really primitive. And men and women just mix here and there, and they smile at each other and say good morning, and this is civilized. So via our city temples, and particularly via these farm projects, we want to demonstrate what is real civilization. Real civilization means high consciousness, aiming at the highest to go back home, back to Godhead. To make an elaborate civilization, but the aim is simply sense enjoyment. That is, as Srila Prabhupada pointed out, animal civilization. So I'll just read this again from TKG's diary, August the 9th. Book distribution and farms, these are our solid programs. They can change the whole world. The whole foundation of animal civilization can be destroyed. So just see the importance. it might not seem very important growing some carrots. Of course, there's a lot more than growing carrots. There's growing cabbages, potatoes, and spinach, and babies. That's the major crop over there in Novi Sad at the present time. So that's also good. Have children and raise them in Krishna consciousness. Krishi Go Raksha. These are mentioned first too. These are the two items that Krishna and Balaram personally engaged in: agriculture and cow protection. Hare Krishna. I won't take questions because there's so much to discuss. I have many lectures on this, and Sabyasachi Prabhu also has. So congratulations for coming here with the determination to make this project successful for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure, and may he bless you more and more to stay steady, face the inevitable difficulties that will arise, and do something wonderful for Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.